Welcome to the series of lectures on Vakrokti. We have been discussing the various kind of Vakroktis or obliquities mentioned by Acharya Kuntaka in Vakrokti Jivitam. So in this series we have discussed three kind of Vakroktis or three kind of obliquities, that are the phonetic obliquity, the lexical obliquity and the grammatical obliquity. Now next kind of obliquity that we are going to discuss in this lecture is sentential obliquity or Vakya Vakrita. Vakya Vakrita, as the name itself expresses, operates at the level of Vakya or sentence to deal with Vastu, the contents or subject matter. Defining it, Kuntaka writes that when the Vastu is described in a way conducive to beauty by virtue of charming words, we have Vakya or Vastu Vakrita. Okay, so the Vakya or sentence is a combination of structure placed in a way that is to create beauty with the help of charming words. These are the poetic Vakyas and poetic sentences. Okay, so that's why he says conducive beauty by the virtue of charming words. Kuntaka holds fast that Vastu replete with beauty serve an integral purpose in a poetic composition. The Vastu of composition may be Sahaja or natural, Aharya imposed. On the basis of this division of Vastu, Kuntaka has divided Vakya Vakrita into two sub-varieties, that are Sahaj Vakrita, the natural obliquity, and Aharya Vakrita, the imposed obliquity. When the Vastu, replete with innate beauty, is described without heavy embellishment in a simple style, it has Sahaj Vakrita. Now the writer, by his natural power of contemplating the natural objects lively, allures the heart of the sensitive reader. In this connection, Kuntaka, putting a rider, says that the Vastu which is to be described should be conductive to beauty by virtue of its own natural alluring charm. In other words, it should have an appeal to heart by its own natural beauty. A talented poet is competent enough in making this Vastu and is characteristic more alluring. That means that the natural charm of the Vastu still requires the labor of writer's function. Kuntaka's Sahaj Vakrita seems to have a paradox, because on one hand he considers charm or beauty of the Vastu as the creation of poet's labor, while on the other he says that the charm lies in the Vastu itself. Kuntaka, avoiding this paradox, accepts both the objective and subjective substances. He establishes a harmonious relationship between the writer and the subject matter and gives equal importance to both the subject matter and the writer. According to him, as has already been said, the beauty is the result of the relationship between the poet's function and the Vastu. Thus, he pays equal importance to both without considering them primary and secondary. The writer, as indeed any true artist, sees or conceives the very same thing, not in the same way as common people. In the case of the latter, all things stand in some relations to his personal interest, which should be understood to connote also scientific interest in them as subjects of his knowledge. But for the writer, the object has no connection with his or anybody's interest, not even as an object of knowledge. He has a vision of things in itself in its true nature. This critique of Kuntaka bears new dimensions of Vakya Vakrita. Now, undoubtedly, the natural charm of the Vastu is the result of the writer's function. A literary piece is nothing but a manifestation of writer's own soul, executed by his poetic function in a most natural and simple way. So what Kuntaka says is that what writer writes is nothing but it's just an expression of the feelings of his own mind, his own heart and his own soul, and for describing it, he uses poetry and the poetic function in a very natural and a very simple way as it comes to his mind. Now, some ancient Indian acharyas considered Vakya Vakrita as Swabhavokti Alankara, the ordinary nature of things, which Kuntaka calls Vastu or Vakya Vakrita, is just an Alankara or figure of speech to Bhamaha and other acharyas. Kuntaka, unlike Bhamaha, description without striking graceful qualities shall not be heart appealing to a Sahardya or sensitive reader. Supporting his argument, he says that as painting drawn on a bed distinguishes Alankara from Vastu, according to Kuntaka, Swabhavokti Alankara is not a figure of speech but an act of figure of speech. He argues that if the ordinary nature of things is treated as Swabhavokti Alankara, then anybody can describe this nature of an object. Such description would not require any poetic art or function. Consequently, this canvas fails to attain excellence. An ordinary subject object heaped with figures of speech too cannot transcend the various shades of beauty. Hence, the natural beauty of the Vastu, which is termed as Vastu Vakrita, should be considered as an act of figures of speech employed in tune with the message to be conveyed. In this way, Kuntaka gives his consent for employment of all possible alankaras in Kavya, but at the same time, he also says that when the subject matter has natural beauty, it should not be heavily embellished with alankara, like metaphor, etc. Otherwise, it may cause a harm to the natural beauty of the subject matter. There are instances in a kavya where, even without embellishment or figure of speech, an extraordinary beauty is observed. The obliquity of nature is a device by which the writer heightens such instances in kavya. The ordinary nature of things, as available in the world, forms the material for the play of the writer's imagination. The writer's eye alone can see it, and his imagination alone can embody the striking and special aspect of things. In fact, nature's world is brazen, the writers only deliver it golden. It is a function of a writer to reveal the hidden beauty of the object. While the writer is under the finer influence of life, he feels so intensely and vividly that his feelings spontaneously find utterances in an unadorned language. Aharya Vakrita, the imposed obliquity, is the second subvariety of Vakya Vakrita. When the expression attains a heightened beauty due to the use of skill, we have Aharya Vakrita. Here the skill means technical art acquired by the poet. This excels the beauty of individual elements such as words, meaning, attributes, and embellishment. The subject matter is not entirely an imaginative matter, rather it has its own power in it but with no attraction. The writer, by his art, imagines a divine beauty in it, and its character becomes potent and prominent, manifesting a new form of beauty. Thus, the subject matter and the writer's art are complementary to each other to arrive at the same end. According to Kuntaka, art is not different from Arthalankara, the figure of sense. It transforms the subject matter and describes it in various ways. In other words, the writer describes the subject matter in many ways based on the kind of this obliquity produced by Arthalankara. Kuntaka admits 1,000 varieties of it and includes the whole lot of Alankara in it, but he considers their use relevant so far as they produce grandeur and beauty. This is why he holds that the writer should not employ them arbitrarily to describe the subject matter. By introducing an element of strangeness into what one speaks or hears every day, the Alamkaras satisfy a basic demand on human nature, that for a pleasant surprise. This obliquity is effective only when it appears in disguise, that is to say, when it is shaded by the brilliance of the style of the writer. In a plain style, it makes all the show, throwing the rest of the utterance into shade. Though a writer for special reasons may now and then renounce the use of figurative language, it remains true that this is the characteristic and habitual mode of utterance not only of poetry but of all emotional prose. Kuntaka describes few other kinds of vakrata also based on the subject matter, animate and inanimate. Animate has two subkinds, primary and secondary. The primary subject matter includes deities, devils, superhuman beings, and men, while the secondary subject matter covers birds, animals, or beasts. As far as the subject matter based on an inanimate object is concerned, it includes the objects of nature, that is, water, trees, flowers, etc. The Skuntaka, maintaining the hierarchy in the selection of subject matter, first places deities, devils, superhuman beings, and men. The animates like birds and beasts fall in the secondary subject matter. Although all the figures have their own nature, the poet, by his art, introduces in them an element of strangeness which satisfies the basic demand of human nature. Like all the animate objects, Kuntaka employs inanimate objects too as the subject of Kavya, considering them as stimulants in the production of rasa. In this way, the subject matter has its two kinds, nature dominated subject and rasa dominated subject. Besides them, Kuntaka also includes the means of attaining salvation, dharma, righteousness, and artha, worldly possessions, kama, desire, moksha, salvation too as the subject matter. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha, um, the four purushas are also considered as the subject matter of Sanskrit poetry. So this is all for the fourth kind of obliquity, that is sentential obliquity, Vakya Vakrita. Thank you very much.